So what happens now? Karina Gould is the government's House Leader. Hi, Minister. Good to have you back on the show. Thanks for making the time.
Thanks for having me, Vashti.
I'm wondering if you can clarify. I didn't really seem to understand from the Bloc Quebecois presser, have there been any actual conversations beyond the regular course of conversations between parties, between House leaders, specific to the ultimatum essentially that they issued?
Well, so as I've said on this program before, of course I don't disclose the nature of the conversations that we've been having, but I can say that, of course, I have been engaging in conversation and in discussion with the Bloc Quebecois on how we make this minority parliament work.
Has your government ruled out explicitly moving forward on what they're proposing where old age security is concerned?
So again, I think it's important to note that we continue to have conversations and discussions with the Bloc as well as with the other parties in the House. I think that we understand that supporting seniors is something that's very important. It's something that we've done as a government, and those conversations continue with all of the parties in the House of Commons.
So your cabinet colleague Stephen Guilbeault told me a few weeks ago explicitly that your government was against the proposal, that it was, quote, $3 billion, and in many cases it would go to people who don't need it. Is that not your government's position, is what you're saying tonight?
What I'm saying is that we have always been supportive of supporting seniors. It's why one of the first things we did was lower the retirement age back down to 65 from 67 that the Conservatives had put forward way back when under Stephen Harper. We increased the guaranteed income supplement, and we've increased old age security for those 75 and older. So our position has always been about supporting vulnerable seniors, and that's something that we continue to do.
Respectfully, Minister, my question isn't whether or not your government thinks it's good to support seniors. My question is if you're prepared to do what the Bloc Quebecois says it's prepared, if you don't do, to take your government down over. Another of your cabinet colleagues was explicit about it, said your government's position was that you were against this proposal. Why are you not willing to stake out the same position?
Well, as I have said many times on this program and in other places, that we have always been about supporting vulnerable seniors and seniors in this country, and that's something that we're going to continue to do. And we are open to continuing to having conversation with the Bloc as well as other parties in this House to try and make Parliament work.
So if I'm a Canadian watching tonight, I've heard Minister Guilbeault say we're not doing it, and I've just heard you say, well, we're having conversations about largely supporting seniors. What am I to walk away from? As a senior in this country, if I'm wondering whether your government is going to do more for me in this specific area, what is the answer to that question, and why are you unwilling to provide it?
Well, so Vashti, as I've said, our government has been very supportive of seniors since the day we took office for the last 9 years, and we're going to continue to support seniors. We know that it's important to ensure that seniors are well supported into their retirement, and that's something that we're going to continue to do. So, that's our position. That's been our position, and it continues to be.
Okay, I'm just going to point out that the substance of my question was on this specific measure, not supporting seniors writ large, and you didn't answer specifically, but I'm going to move on and ask about whether or not the Bloc's threat to take down your government will ever come to fruition in any way. And in essence, what I would like to ascertain from you is whether or not you are prepared to either give those documents over that the House ordered you to, that has sort of resulted in the current situation in the House of Commons, or work with another party. Are you working with any other party to force closure so that the issue moves on and you're free to introduce your own agenda?
So again, those conversations with all parties in the House continue. I speak with my House counterparts on a regular basis. We feel very strongly that what the House of Commons, what the Conservative Party of Canada is doing, goes well beyond the regular business and what the House should be doing when it comes to demanding these documents. The House has the right to demand documents for its own use. The question is whether they should be doing it to give directly to a third party, in this case the RCMP. Look, both the former law clerk and now just as recently as today, Steve Chaplin also said that this is an abuse of power, and this does go beyond the reasonable limits of the House of Commons, and it's time for the House to accept that it made a mistake in this regard. regards and to move on. We've accepted the ruling of the Speaker that this should go to the Procedure and House Affairs Committee. That has been our position from day one. The Conservatives are the ones that are filibustering their own motion now because they don't want this to go to committee, because they don't want to have those experts on the record to say that they are abusing their power and trying to get around due process for police. So at this point in time, it's pretty much only Conservative members of Parliament that are debating this motion. They've been debating it for a number of days now, and at the end of the day, we are going to stand up for Canadians. And in fact, I would expect, Vashi, that if the situation were reversed, if the Conservatives were in government, I would want them to take the same approach, because parliamentarians should not be able to use the House of Commons to go on, the attack of Canadian citizens or organizations for their own political vendetta.
Well, I would just say, look, I think there are questions for the Conservatives about the tactics they're employing, but I spoke to the RCMP's commissioner about the concerns that you and your colleagues in the Liberal Party have raised about the precedent that this would set. He has, and he did say, look, I'm not sure if this stuff is going to stand up in court, if we're going to use it. But he has a USB key, he said, and he's exhausting every option he has before he gets to that. So there is a world in which you hand over the documents, the RCMP has them in their possession, and they don't use them. Why are you not willing to entertain that, particularly at a time when you're trying to tell Canadians you're the only party in a position to work for them, to get things done for them, and instead nothing is getting done for Canadians right now?
Because we do not believe that politicians should be telling the police who and what to investigate. That is a
but
very
they're not.
basic
The commissioner said that they're going to make their own decisions.
Who we are. Yeah, but the Conservatives right now are using their parliamentary powers to try and do just that. And that is something that is unacceptable, and it goes well beyond the separation of powers that we have in this country. And I think that's something that's very important to stand against, because if this precedent goes through, who is it next? I mean, it could be very well CTV, for example. We know how the Conservatives felt about, the report that came out on them, and, the fact that they, could go after CTV or any organization to compel their documents and give them over to the police.
This is the will of Parliament.
Yeah, but that's
exactly.
But
Parliament has decided
but if
to
the
provide
Conservatives,
an order to you.
Yeah, and they could do that if this precedent goes through with any Canadian or organization in the country. And that is something that should send alarm bells up to every citizen and every organization in Canada. It is one thing for Parliament to ask for these documents for their own study and for their own use. It is something entirely different for them to hand them over to the police. The current law clerk, when asked about it at the Public Accounts Committee, said that he concurs with the concerns raised by the RCMP Commissioner and the Auditor General in terms of the precedent that this would set.
Yeah.
So
I'm
Parliament,
just putting out there that the Commissioner
needs to be
didn't
very
seem too
careful
alarmed in the interview. He thought he had a way to deal with it, is what I'm saying.
Right, but he should never be put in that position. We should never be in a position where we are compromising the potential independence and work of the police, because politicians, Conservative politicians, have decided that that's the route that they want to take. So he shouldn't have been put in that position in the first place, because it compromises the trust Canadians have in their police institutions. It compromises his potential ability to have evidence in court, stand up in a court of law, and it compromises the due process that Canadians come to expect every single day. He should never be put in that position in the first place. It is wrong, and I would expect that if the Conservatives were in government, they would be acting the same way, because at the end of the day, our job as a government is to protect the charter rights of Canadians and to stand up for Canadian democracy.
I know you have to get back in for a vote. I just point out he implied that he did not have to use it should he not think it would stand up in court. Just really quickly, if you can't get the support from other parties to move closure on this and get back to actually Parliament working, is prorogation still off the table?
Yes.
Okay, I'll leave it on that note. Minister, appreciate your time as always. Thank you.
Thanks, Vashti. Take care.